What is happening, everybody? So for this video, I wanted to put together some answers to some of the more common questions that I get on the channel. And really, the issue is this: I don't get notified of every comment that I get for every video that I've posted. And so what I'll do sometimes is I'll go through some of the comments, answer some questions, or give some comments back to you guys. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of times those are kind of a short answer type of a scenario, and although I don't get a chance to see all of them, these are some of the questions that have been more or less, I guess you could say, almost trending in a way, but just the ones that had kind of caught my eye. And granted, this is going to be kind of a longer video, so if you're having trouble sleeping, this might be the sure cure for that insomnia. So at any rate, let me just jump right into it. So one of the questions that comes up fairly regularly is, how many passes do I have on my car? And without getting too specific, you guys may have seen the old clipboard with all the, time slips on here. This is about, I don't know, this is the vast majority of the passes that I've made on the car, but it's not all of them. And I think at last count, there were 65 time slips on this clipboard. So, I'd say I've got about 75-ish passes on my car, and those passes are in all different DAs and in different states of tune with different tires. A little bit of everything is represented on the clipboard. So it's not all the best, it's not all the worst, it's basically everything. So yeah, I'd say short answer to that, about 75 passes on my car, still going strong. Another question that comes up quite a bit is, how much experience do I have drag racing? Part of that may come from, a couple of the ride-along videos where I'm just kind of chatting along as I'm going down the drag strip, or, different questions that I'll have asked of me is, how am I launching the car, things like that. And it did get me to thinking. It was a great question. I've got, over the last 20 years or so, I have logged somewhere in and around the 2,000 mark in terms of passes down a drag strip. In other words, laps down the drag strip, if you want to look at it that way. I have raced at Royal Purple, which was my home track for years. Houston Raceway Park before that was the name of it. And I've not only raced at my local track, but I've raced in Florida, I've raced in Tennessee, I've raced all over Texas. So yeah, quite a bit of seat time, to say the least. And cars that I've driven practically everything under the sun, whether it was my 96 GTS Mustang that would struggle to run mid to high 13s to, high to mid 9-second Vipers that I've owned. Yeah, I've piloted a little bit of everything in between, and the majority of them have actually all been manual transmissions. So this automatic thing, although it's not new to me, it's definitely represents a smaller percentage than the manual transmission platforms that I've taken down the drag strip. So that's just a little bit of background on me. One of the bigger questions is, will I ever put a power adder on my car? And if so, what would I put on it? If budget were no option, it'd be turbos, but the reality is that packaging and complexity start to play a role with that. If it's my money being spent and my time in the car, though, it's going to be a centrifugal supercharger for a couple of reasons. One, it's a softer hit off the line. These, scat packs, chargers, challengers, whichever one you're driving, you already know how hard they are to launch. A root supercharger is just going to exacerbate that a little bit more. And really, at that point, you should have just bought a Hellcat. If it's me, I want a little bit different driving experience. So I would probably lean more towards that centrifugal supercharger, have a little bit softer launch, and be able to pull that top-end rush at the big end of the track. So, it's softer on the transmission, easier to get out of the hole, offers a different driving experience. To me, that ticks all the right boxes. So there you go. That's my choice. The question next is typically, if I didn't go with a power adder, would I ever put a cam in my car? And the answer to that, short answer is yeah, of course, but I don't want to have to do that. What I mean by have to is, my car is an automatic, so it's got the multi-displacement system lifters in it, which any pushrod engine that has multi-displacement system lifters, you're going to be running into problems at some point probably far down the line, but the lifters are more complex. They are heavier than a standard hydraulic lifter, and because of that, they can fail. And if I ever did run into a problem with the lifters on my car, because I can't just pull the valve covers off, pull the intake off, you know, and you do have to pull the heads to pull the lifters out of these cars. Yeah, I would probably put a cam in it, but I would definitely not go with an off-the-shelf cam. Would definitely go with a custom grind cam, and it would be me doing the specs on the cam. I've got some experience speccing cams for different engine combinations, and I've got a pretty sweet cam in my mind for my car, if it ever came to that. But we'll see. You never know. The next question that comes up is, what tire do I run at the drag strip? Well, if you're not counting the stock Pirelli All Seasons, which are garbage at the drag strip, I've run the Mickey Thompson drag radial in the stock size for my SRT and for the Hellcats, which is 275/40/20. Awesome tire. Love that tire on the drag strip. Not the best in terms of longevity, but that tire has proven itself to be a solid performer even in colder weather on a prepared drag strip. So that tire gets big points for me in that respect. I'm currently running a Nitto 555R in the size of 305/35/20, mainly for the aesthetic, number one, because I just like the slightly larger tire, just the look on the rim. But it's a tire that a lot of guys that do have SRTs and have Hellcats are running on their cars, and they're proven to be very good street tires as well as fairly decent drag tires. So they hook well on the street. They can cope with rain just fine. I've got a pretty interesting experience with that right after I had the tires mounted on the car. So, but I like the Nitto for overall driving. If I were to pick one for specific drag race only use, though, it'd probably be that Mickey Thompson. But I do like the look of the Nitto. The next question is, what are the mods on my car? And I know a lot of videos I've said what the mods are on the car, but real quickly, the mods in the car are, it's got a Hellcat airbox with a Hellcat filter. It's got the intake manifold runners ported by me. I've got a video of me doing that. Fun mod to do on the car. But again, getting off track, it's got the brake duct mod to help get more air into the fender well for the intake. It's got a JBA cap delete pipe, the aforementioned drag radials, and a tune by Pite's Performance. So that's the mod list. Nothing major at all. And yes, it does still have the stock exhaust shorty headers. The next question that comes up is, it's kind of almost a tie in this, but what are the best mods that I've done for the car, and what's the best ET that I've been able to get out of the car? Well, the best ET the car has ever run with all the mods that I've listed has been an 1158 at 117.5, I think. I can't remember the exact mile an hour, but it's run a string of 1160s at 116, high 116s to into, deep into the 117s. So those mods will get my car into that, ET and that mile per hour range. But you got to keep in mind, I live basically at sea level, and when we have really good air, it's unimaginably good. To give you an idea, for us here on the coast, if we have a DA that's above 2,000 feet, that typically means that the humidity is really high and that the temperature is also probably pretty high, or at least some combination thereof. And I know it's kind of weird to hear that, a 2,000-foot DA is miserable conditions, but when you're already starting out pretty low, it doesn't take much in terms of, heat or humidity to wreck your car's performance. So there's that. I know, right? Cry me a river. But when it's good, it's amazing. So again, getting back to that, the ETs though, it will run fairly consistent 1160s at a density altitude of around 1,000 feet. So if that gives you any idea, if you guys are running your car and you've got the ability to, or you're tracking your DAs when you run your car, that'll give you an idea to kind of pair your car up against mine if you do a DA calculator. And last but not least, what are the best modifications that I've done to the car? If I were to take just one or two things and separate them from the rest. The first thing I'll say is the tire, because the car comes from the factory with the worst traction out of the hole I've ever had in any car I've ever owned or driven. You've got to put some kind of a stickier tire on the back of that thing, or else you're just going to light the tires up every time you roll into the throttle. So the drag radials are on the top of the list, but what really crowns the list is the tune on the car. When I originally bought my car, it's an SRT, and the Hellcats have the same thing, track mode. Well, track mode, if you don't have a tune on your car, is practically useless in just regular driving around conditions, because it has a real weird choppiness to it. It's like you're driving in a car with somebody in a manual transmission, where the guy's rolling on the throttle, hits the clutch, changes gears, and then rolls back on the throttle. It's bizarre. It's an automatic transmission. Shouldn't be like that. Shouldn't have come from the factory like that. But with a tune, you can take that annoying issue out of the equation. And of course, you guys know I went with Pipe's Performance Tunes. I was turned their direction by HP Tuners, because I actually bought the HP Tuners software because I was going to do my own tuning on the car initially, because I've got some experience doing that as well. In terms of tuning, I figured how hard could it be? It's a Mopar, it's a naturally aspirated engine. Well, come to find out, Mopars are a little bit different than what I'm used to with the Fords. So they turned me on to Alex Pites over at Pipe's Performance, and he put together a tune on my car that is awesome. So to give you an idea, stock on a drag radial, yeah, even with perfect or even better than perfect air, I never expected my car to go any quicker than maybe an 1175. And that was really the goal, the time goal. If I was to set, what I thought the car would be ideal at in basically with a 0 DA, it was basically an 1175. And so far my car has proven to be a couple of tenths quicker than that, give or take. So, yeah, I'll take it. So yeah, tune number one for drivability and for picking up power, and to be able to put all that power to the ground, the drag radial. So at any rate, I hope that answered some questions for you guys. And if you've got some other questions that you'd like for me to answer directly, throw it in the comments section. Might make for a great next video. And that is a wrap on this one. Hope you guys are having a great one. Adios.